So I could tell you we had this really crazy project we were working on for one of the teams. We're doing a side project for Amazon, and it was crazy that somebody had an emotional breakdown right on the project, and like, hey, wait,
Wow.
someone broke your heart? Are you serious?
Oh,
I am so sorry. I had to cry on the call with this teammate. Like,
wow.
I needed to make her understand
Kems. Yes.
The reason you're calling Kems, did she get her heart broken?
I mean, I don't know.
Kems! Hey everyone, my name is Colins, and you are listening to Designstration podcast with Ufot Ubon. Design plus illustration equals Designstration. Now that's an amazing wordplay.
Designstration.
Kems co-hosted this episode, but due to technical difficulties, we could not recover her audio files. Hence, her vital contribution is missing from this episode, and we sincerely apologize for that. Hello everyone, you're welcome back to another episode on the Designstration podcast. My name is Ufot Ubon. I am your host for this podcast. We have brought you exciting topics, different conversation ranging from designs to personal development in career as a whole in career. And today we also have with me an amazing guest who we're going to get into the introduction a bit, but I did some research about who he is, and we're talking about I would love to call him a managing director of creatives, and he's exceptional at what he does. While I was surfing through the internet and looking out for some of the things he does, I was blown away, and it's no other person than the incredible Colins. Colins, thank you very much for being on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Ufot, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, honestly. Thank you.
Tell Colins, so tell us about yourself. Who's Colins? Also, how do you pronounce your surname? I said I was going to ask you.
It's pronounced as Donye. Colins Donye.
Oh, Colins Donye. That's great. So, tell us about yourself. Who is Colins?
That's a so it's always confusing when someone asks me to tell. Do I say I'm a designer? Do I say I'm a design manager? Do I say I'm a upcoming founder or an entrepreneur? So it's a bunch of things. So do I just talking about my hobbies, right? To say that this is who I am. But yeah, my name is Colins, and I have been a designer for the past 6 to 7 years. I currently work at Rvysion Group. Currently also heading the studio, which is Rvysion Studio at the moment. And I'm an introverted designer, also a design manager. Had the opportunity to lead teams, had the opportunity to work with countless startups in the past. And so far, I'm currently in the phase of entrepreneurship. Building my own company on the side while also still leading teams, and that's who I am, man. I don't know what else to say.
That's quite a journey, actually. 7 years. I didn't see that one when I was searching.
I like keeping my things to myself. I don't like really being out there that much for any reason. I'm shy personality.
And how did you come about design? How did you get into design?
So that's an interesting question because so let me give you a bit of backstory. I'll just try to make it very short. My journey in design started, or rather my journey in design began before I even knew what design was. As a kid, I was always in this headspace of tinkering, dismantling toys, fixing them, and trying to create something from like different household items. I remember making a version of like Thor's hammer out of like recharge cards and rubber bands and a wooden ruler, just, and then using some glue to just put everything together and then turn it into like Thor's hammer and playing around. I did a bunch of things to just help me get all the ideas I had in my head. And it was more like I had this innate desire to want to bring ideas from my head to life in the most simplest ways I can. And around like 10, my dad got me this laptop, and things really took off from there. So I was excited and a bit anxious at the same time because I didn't know how to use it. And I was fascinated by all the possibilities that came with, like, building and creating stuff. So that prompted me to, want to go out there and figure out how exactly do I use it. So I signed up for this local cyber cafe close by, and it's just been amazing where I got to watch how, the head of the cyber cafe used CorelDRAW, Photoshop, Dreamweaver back then, and PowerPoint. And yeah, in all of that, I was able to like just get myself immersed into the world of design, and it was just fascinating watching these guys, design stuff, design websites, design wedding cards, and design a bunch of things that were just fascinating for me. And when I then got into university, it was like a no-brainer, right? I needed to do something that was, in that technology space, and I was fascinated by that too. So I went into computer science, and from there it was either going to coding or something else. And coding for me didn't really, do as much as I wanted. I wanted things to be visually, shown. I needed my mind to, map out the ideas in a visual canvas. So from there, I journeyed into design. I started doing self-learning. And yeah, from self-learning, I just found myself, looking for ways to practice what I've learned. That intersection of creativity and functionality was always mind-blowing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start taking up freelance projects and, try my hands on things I've seen, things I've learned, things I'm, currently practicing. And fast forward to, about 7 years now, it's just been one startup to the other. And yeah, leading teams, building startups, and it's just been amazing, man. And that's how I got into design, honestly. Just being a curious kid.
Wow. There was one episode where I was conversing with, I think it was trying to remember his role, product manager at Nullbase, Colins Donye. And when we talked, and he also did not come into product management as per I'm wanting to learn a skill, I'm wanting to do this. And I highlighted that there's nothing wrong in picking up a particular niche because you want to, I want to learn a skill, let me pick up design. There's nothing wrong in that.
True.
But there's something also very exceptional about people who get into design specifically.
Yeah.
Without knowing they're doing the thing, and the kind of which is your kind of story, and it's just so beautiful to see that you are a designer not because you get into design, but because you've been designing. I mean, something of that nature. It's just what it is, and it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful to know that. Yeah, that's the case for you. How would you define a design-driven world in the context of your industry?
Design-driven world in the context of my industry.
Yeah.
So businesses really don't see design, right? They don't see processes. They really just see outcome, right? And trying to have that design-driven world, most times we all know it's just, I try to say that as a fantasy, because it's really not easy to get businesses to actually change their mindset from just seeing things as goal-oriented, right, or outcome-oriented, rather to process-oriented. Because in the context of design-driven world, right, it is one where design is embedded in the aspect of every business, right, from execution all the way from strategy to execution, rather, right. And it's not just about making things look good, because if you think about it, we all say, yes, design is solving real problems, right? Enhancing user experiences. But if I'm to say something out from my own experience, right, I think one of the companies I worked for that had that idea of, a design-driven approach was, I think that was Engage Project. And Engage was a marketing automation tool, right, that helped businesses personalize messages. And in the process of trying to build this product, we noticed the founder was more focused on the outcome of the business. So he didn't want designs at all. Like, he was like, you know what, Collins, I'm just going to build this, right? Build the MVP. As a founding designer, I'm going to build the MVP. And then, push it out while you being the founding designer. Once the product is out, we'll test it, iterate, and then build again from scratch. And I'm like, that is not the best approach to take this, right? Like, if we were going to think about me being on this project, I would love if we could approach it from a design driven aspect, right? And right from from that entire conversation, being able to, tell this founder that if we could approach this in this way, it will save you cost in rebuilding the project all the way from scratch, in having to spend time and money in user testing, in having to spend money in customer support and all of this. We could save you all these countless hours, right? And just build from the process where, we're thinking about the experience from the onset. And right there and then I was able to convince him, and immediately we just went on straight into, designing the entire flow. We spent enough time, right, just sitting down with the engineering team, sitting down with the product managers that was coming on the team, and the entire conversation was just more about user experience. And from there, we went into user research, pushing beyond our boundaries of just, forgetting the fact that we are trying to launch a product. Let's just really sit down with these users and try to understand exactly why they need this new platform, right? And honestly, that entire process, we did that for about a month, and just basically having back and forth conversations, iterating based on those conversations, mapping out prototypes, right? Mapping out the user journey, mapping out proper user personas. And it was amazing because that approach paid off, right? So the platform was not just, it didn't just perform technically better than it would have if the founder had taken the approach of just building alone, right, without design. That product then became a tool where users loved, right? They enjoyed the product. It was easy to navigate. It was intuitive. It was more efficient. It was all about basically helping them solve the problems, right? So it's the reason why products like Linear, right? People love Linear. People love Notion, right? Because these are companies that have thought about design from the onset, companies that have factored in experience, right, as a way for businesses to be able to gain competitive advantage, right? Because if you think about it, we had Google Docs, right? We had Microsoft Word. Was there really a need for us to have Notion as another platform to use, right? People naturally tilted towards using Notion, and even became a word of mouth thing where I would easily tell my friend, "Oh, why don't you just use Notion instead of Google Docs?" And I'm just like, what exactly is Notion, right? It's because of that easy to use experience that Notion has crafted all the way from the beginning, right? They recognize that good design, right, gives a business competitive advantage, right? It can help you differentiate your product in a crowded market, build brand loyalty, and even influence down to the bottom line. It's about moving beyond like seeing design as a nice to have and understanding that it's a strategic tool that actually drives innovation and growth. So if businesses can then start seeing design from this aspect, I believe that a design-driven world is something that we can achieve, right? And that's how I would define it. Because in every team I've been in, I've always, tried to sell design and market design rather to the stakeholders, to see design from the aspect where it is not just about processes or good experience alone. It's about the outcome the business is trying to achieve, right? And that's why we do these things. And aside from that, everyday real problems we experience, right, can be solved from a design-driven approach, where if you apply the design thinking processes to it, you realize that you can legit solve almost every world problems by just sitting down first and following through those processes, right? From researching to ideating, right, to all the way to prototyping and testing, right? And having it as an iterative process, you realize that almost every problem could be solved. So that would be my ideal, world in terms of design driven, right? That I would love for businesses to, to take on, or every team rather to take on. Yeah.
Wow. Just wow.
Sounds like I just loaded a lot on you. Sorry, man.
Wow.
Just
I mean, it's what it is, right? It really is what it is. I filmed an episode with Leia, and one of the things we talked about is about how certain business owners, specifically we brought it down to our demographic, which is Nigeria, right? And we sort of centralized it here in Nigeria. And from his experience, he was also mentioning how it can be very hard working with certain business owners in Nigeria, especially those who don't have the knowledge of design, and those who don't actually value design as a whole, it can be hard. And I don't know, if it feels like we're cheated in this part of the world. Because it feels like we're cheated in this part of the world.
Technically, it's almost the same thing when you look at a lot of companies. I could tell you, in the spectrum of things, right, most times when you see these companies doing so well, all we are seeing is the ones who are loud in the market, the ones who are probably hit IPO, or the ones who are, nearing unicorn status. But I could bet you half of, the world's companies you see, right, are filled with startups. And these startups, I promise you, they are not really that much design driven, right? They're just basically outcome driven. So you still experience that center design thing, even in these companies. And I'm not one to badmouth any company, right? But I tell you, I've worked for some that are so stressful to work with because they don't value design. So you would have to, every meeting, explain why this design is going to help you make money. And they'll be like, I don't believe that. And then, well, yeah, sure, no problem, let's go. You do the design, do it the way they like it. It comes back, there's high user drop-off rate. Nothing is working. They're like, oh, what's wrong? Is it engineering? Oh, no, it's design. They're like, okay, let's go back and fix it. So it's everywhere, man. I don't think it's just unique to our country alone.
It's a thing at this point. I would jump right into asking, what would be some challenges that you have personally faced, right? Key, strong challenges that you've personally faced in your career, original one, and how did you handle them?
So, to be honest, the biggest challenge I faced. So I faced two core challenges in my career. One as an IC, right, which an individual contributor before I became a manager, and then one as a manager. So which one do you want to hear?
Both. If you can tell us both, I mean, that's fine.
That's unfair, man. I should keep some secrets to myself.
Yeah. All right. A lot of our audience would want to learn. So please tell us.
All right, then. So the first one, I'll try my best to summarize, but the first one was when I started my career. I started working for this company as an intern, and it was quite an experience because it was a product company that was trying to branch out into having a service-based company, right? And this service-based company was supposed to have its own, it was supposed to be a standalone company and have its own flagship products, and then service companies. So they hired me for that purpose, right? So they were not willing to risk by hiring senior level talents. They were just going to hire junior levels for a start. So I came in and we did a few projects for clients. It was looking good. I was doing well. And then they came in and said, okay, we're going to have a flagship product. And this flagship product is supposed to be, how you go into the Uber, right? And then have you ever seen like this tablets you could play at the back of the Uber? You're sitting at the back, right? So those tablets, those consoles, we were building a product that was to design the entire experience for that. So I've never done it before, man. In my head, I'm like, damn, I just put myself into the wrong company because for the hell? I'm new to design, right? Why am I being dragged into this? Can we hire someone else that can do this? Because this was around 2018-ish. There was no Uber in Nigeria then that had that console, right? And you couldn't access your competitors' products because they're like in other countries. So there's no way I could, go there and, check it out. The only other way was to jump on a flight and try to access, on a business class to see how you can interact with those consoles. So the founder was like, yeah, sure, in that case, let's do that so that we could get experiences. So it was quite a challenge for me. There was a lot of pressure. Like, these guys are going to pay money for me to be on a flight just to experience this. God, I beg. How do I do this? Right. So
I actually exclaimed because I exclaimed because I thought you were the one to cover that expense. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Mike, with which money?
I mean, that was why I said wow. That's why I said wow. All right,
no, man, no, I don't. So,
okay.
Well, yeah. So that was the experience, right? Having to navigate that high pressure. It was a lot because there was no other way for me to draw inspiration from. There was no website that I could go to that had this entire experience to see. So there was no, I'm doing competitors research, because who exactly is the research I'm doing for? I can't experience the product. So it was more like I was stuck in this position where I had to, pick experiences from different industries, different other products. So I was looking at smart TVs, right? Trying to understand how smart TVs operate. Trying to see how certain game consoles interact, to get the idea of how to design for the entire experience, because it's not supposed to be just a tablet or a mobile app. It was going to be wiped clean, and we're going to design an entire new OS, and those OS was going to have interactive mini applications in them. So it was quite hectic for me, but I was able to navigate that part through basically picking inspiration from different places. And then we were doing user research straight up on the spot. We design, we get users to come in, we test it, get their feedback, and design again. So imagine having to go through hours and hours of research, of user testing, prototyping. I have never done any of those before. It was crazy for me, right? So I had to beg and pitch to my boss that, please, in order for me not to die, can you please get me a senior designer to come in? And yeah, senior designer came in. It was cool. It was amazing. And then I watched how the senior designer designed, how he handled conversations with these users, the kind of questions he asked, how he deduced this user his research documentation, how he presented them, how he navigated the entire design process. So at that moment, I realized that everything you learn in the bootcamp, or what you learn as being a self-taught designer, is not exactly what you experience when you get into a startup or a company, right? The processes is different, the experience is different, the pressure, the timeline, the different constraints, right? So this was everything that shaped my entire foundation as a designer, because I realized there's nobody coming to save you. You've been hired as a talent in a team, right? You are supposed to figure things out. That's what you're being paid for. And as a designer, using the proper principles you have, you should be able to innately have this problem-solving ability to be able to navigate any problems you experience. That was what I lacked when I first became a designer. And that experience taught me that in order for me to survive as a designer in this industry, this is what it's like, in a competitive environment. And that was the experience for me. That was the hardest challenge I faced as a designer. Then the second one was when I became a manager. The first thing for me was, so I just transitioned. I was promoted in another 6 months of joining this company. And from senior designer, I became, the lead designer of this team. And we had about 8 designers, right? And I moved on from working with these guys day to day, laughing and playing and, having fun with them while designing, to now myself guiding and mentoring the team. In my head, that was like a huge shift, right? So there were a lot of, ill feelings from some team members who felt like they had been in the team longest. They should have that position, not me, right? And how do you navigate those, those little human, behaviors, right? How do you navigate that entire? It was a bunch of back and forth for me, having to please everybody, having to also please the business, please the designers, so that nobody has ill feelings for me, and then balance all the emotions, and then also have. So it's a different thing just designing on Figma when you're designing, in silo, and then you now come to present or collaborate with other team members. Now I have to be in every project. I have to be thinking about these designers, how to make their experiences better, how to improve their processes, how to improve their careers, because now I'm mentoring, I'm leading my own team, and also thinking about the business, right? All of that was high pressure for me, right? So, and then to make it worse, we had a new project that came in, and the timeline was so super tight. Pressure was high. There were people who didn't like me anymore because I was not their manager. And then, there was like stress everywhere, and it was just like a bunch of responsibilities. So I overcame that by just basically praying to God, man. Like I needed God's help.
Yeah,
it was crazy. And after that, I did my best to have realistic expectations with these people, like have conversations with them, one-on-one check-ins, right? To explain what it means for me to be in this position, to let them understand that I understand their feelings and it's validated, right? And I'm not here to take anyone's, progress or shine or a star or anything, right? I didn't ask for this, right? But in order for us to have a good working relationship and move on from this, I can also, I'm now in the position where we could grow the team together, right? Because as a manager, it is not my responsibility alone, right? Everybody works hand in hand, right? We are more colleagues than there is this hierarchy of management. No, we are still all colleagues, right? The only difference is I just have a different role. So I had to make sure they understood these processes. They understood my thinking. They understood how I want the team to be now and how I want to grow the team and my vision for the team. I basically had to sound like a motivational speaker trying to sell sell a dream to these guys. And luckily it worked, right? We were able to also, try to understand the fact that we were once friends as colleagues, right? Building together. Nothing has changed. I'm still the same person, right? So we threw every other thing out the window. We came together, the entire team, had one-on-one check-ins. Everybody was feeling great. We started talking about the project we were building. I had to make sure there was no stress on the team anymore. I had to help them prioritize. I had to help them, properly listen to their concerns and see how I could find solutions to those concerns and reassign tasks when needed, put everybody in the right places where they felt comfortable, right? And that helped create this sense of balance, right, in the team. And I realized I had a strong team who was, at my back and ready to do work. And then I reached out to the business, told them that, the team is ready to go. We're good to go. All of this happened in like 3 days, man. Like I had to make sure I fixed all of this in 3 days. So imagine having to jump on back-to-back calls, trying to, plead with people, talk to people, find a way to, balance everything. And on the fourth day, my co-founder, the co-founder of the company buzzed me. I was like, Colins, how's it going? Are you settled in now? Are you ready to take on this project? And I was like, yeah, good to go. And he was shocked and surprised because he knew the team he had, right? And he was like, these guys are not going to like this promotion I'm going to, give to Colins. But he's the right person for the job. And that was the biggest challenge I experienced, man. Leadership and prayers and having to make tough decisions and knowing when to step back and, access and really listen to these people and help them navigate their entire process and navigate their emotions, navigate the team dynamics. All of that was basically what helped me navigate through that challenge I experienced. But yeah.
Wow. You handled pressure. You were pressure. You were pressure and you pressured the pressure. You peppered the pressure. Wow.
Bro, I just had to, man.
Wow. I can only imagine. Especially when you started talking about you being assigned a new role and now your role is you're now managing colleagues.
People and colleagues.
I mean, when designers begin to beef designers, I mean, we've seen the word social.
Bro.
Yeah. Wow.
It's crazy. It's a hard space to navigate.
It truly is.
There is really no course you can say, oh, I want to go, sign up for this course to learn how to be a good design manager. Yeah. We have more boot camps about the hard skills, but there's nothing really talking about management and the soft skills. So you had to be I was learning on the job experience and just navigating into it, all the leadership experience I've had in the past.
Now, this is obviously not in the question he asked, but do you really think that for now, right, currently what we have now, do you think there's been a lot of, and of course there's been growth, I know, but a very tremendous growth in the soft skill section as per managing creatives, right? Other than just the hard skill, how to use the software, how to do, but not design principles, no, but we're talking about core managing. Yeah, do you think there's been tremendous growth for that?
Honestly, when I look at the past, from when I started my career up to this moment, honestly, man, I wouldn't lie to you. Yes, there have been really good growth, right? Because I remember collaborating with designers from the onset of my career up to this point. They were really nasty in, politics being played. They were really bad decisions made during collaborations, right? I saw how we designers treated ourselves, right? And that created this lack of respect to the stakeholders, right? A lot of times. But so far, I have seen designers now willing to understand the idea of inclusivity, right? And being able to understand diversity in different cultures and being able to understand that spectrum and then make room for people to feel safe, right? And create quality environments for people to give feedback, share feedback. And yeah, it's been really good so far. There's been massive growth, man. Design maturity in hard skills, yes, 100%. The maturity level is increasing. Amazing creatives. But then when you talk about soft skills, I would say right now we're still at 60%. And I look forward to, people really taking key seriousness into their soft skills, improving communication, collaboration, attentiveness to work, being able to, focus properly on their tasks and being able to, know how to navigate autonomy, because that's very actually key as a creative. But yeah, that's what I feel, man.
That's great. What do you look out for when looking to manage a team of creatives?
Well, honestly, managing creatives can be a lot. I could count like a list of things, but I think the key things for me would be just a few qualities that's always top of mind when I'm hiring, right? Okay. And it's something I look forward to, because if I can get my hiring right, it's always easy to manage designers, because then we are all aligned and we're in sync, right? And the synergy is there. So first and foremost, I look for diversity, right? Not in the case of cultural backgrounds or experiences, but more in how do people think? How do they approach problems? Because a team with a range of a team with a range of perspectives is more likely to come up with innovative solutions, right? Because now everybody's bringing something different to the table. So if you say, how do you solve problems? Maybe I solve problems by just isolating myself and thinking really hard on a problem for like a few hours and then coming back with a solution. Or maybe someone else on the team is the type of person that can see a problem and instantly churning out ideas, like you're in a crazy 8 session, for instance, right? And then maybe someone else is the type who is more critical, right, and analytical. They can easily break down any idea and figure out the pros and the cons. So now having this 3 spectrum of people, right, together, you realize that you're going to have innovative ideas, because as someone is churning out ideas, another person is, doing the breakdowns, another one is qualifying the idea. And diversity in that sense is something I look forward to, right? So when hiring, I always try to make sure I figure out how this person thinks, how we solve problems, are they iterative, right? And then also pay close attention to individuals who collaborate and communicate, because that's a very, very key thing, right? In a creative thing, ideas need to flow freely. We want a situation where this should not happen in a space where, or rather, the idea of collaboration and communication should always lead to that foundation of trust and openness. I love my teams when they know how to crack jokes. They know how to play around. They know how to just feel free, right? Like it's not being serious all the time, right? So I look for people who, you might have the amazing skill, you can be the most smartest, amazing designer I've seen. But then if I see someone else who is just maybe 80% of your skill, right, but knows how to be free, crack a joke, laugh and play during my interview, right? Or just basically just, subtle comments that just get me like, oh, what was that? And then it tells me the joke. I'm like, oh my God, that was brilliant. I would remember the person over the person with amazing skill, but doesn't know how to take a joke, right? I might be biased to it, but that's how I see it, right? Because these are the type of people that know how to diffuse a situation where the team is tensed and stressed, and they can just make you remember that, oh, guys, just chill, right? Like everything is going to be fine. So I always look for people like this, and people like that know how to put their egos aside, right? And just work towards a common goal. And that's something that's very key, right? So last thing would be adaptability, right?
Okay.
That's a very crucial trait, in the sense where the creative process is rarely just straightforward. It's never just, one project. It's never multiple projects with one process. right? Because you would always change the directions based on new insight or client needs or technical constraints, right? So you need team members that can be flexible, know how to say, all right, so I see we can't take this direction. All right, fine, I will pause work and jump on something else, right? Get this done, maybe for the marketing team that's needed urgently, and then I'll come back to the project. And by the time I'm back to the project, maybe the stakeholders have said, oh, let's change directions, let's try this. And you don't feel entitled to a design. You feel like, okay, fine, we can do away with this and come up with something. And there's this thing that happens with creatives I've seen is a lot of creatives tend to drop quality when a design they like is not accepted, right? And that's a very big problem.
Yeah.
It's wrong, right? And it's unethical as a designer to just turn off your creativity just because you feel like, and they didn't accept my design, so I'm just going to do whatever they want. No, you always want to maintain quality, right? At all times, because that's what it means to actually love the craft. And that shows you're someone who is not just in it for money or in it for, for accolades. You are in it to actually, for the greater good, right? Which means solving problems that people are actually going to use.
Yeah.
So that in a way is something I look forward to for design, for teams I manage, right? And that leads to the idea of, I don't want to use the word passion because it's quite delicate to use the word passion. I feel like that's one of the most overused words in the design industry. Oh, I'm a passionate designer. I passionately solve a problem. It's like, bro. So I love people who have this zeal, right? Like there's just something about this person, that this person is not just in it for the money. It's not just in it for just to get the experience. This person is in it because there's something else driving them, right? Now that thing driving them, right, whatever it is, I like to figure it out, right? I like to know what that is because that's the reason why when I ask you, where do you want to be in 5 years? You're not telling me in the interview that, I want to be in this company for 5 years because we all know that's a lie, man, really. So I need people who have something else that drives them because it's easier for me to hold on to that, right? And see how I can help you grow, right? Because I don't want people coming to the company, right, or my team that are stagnant or they don't have any zeal to want to grow into becoming something better than they were yesterday. So I think I said last thing before. So one more thing would be
that's fine.
One more thing would be resilience, right? So resilience is key, very key, man, because not every idea will make it through the final project, right? So you always want to make sure you have a team that can handle criticism, iterate as fast as possible, and always keep moving forward, man. So I feel if you have all of this in a designer, this is what helps you differentiate an average designer to somebody who is going to be an explosive designer in the next 6 months to 1 year, right? And it helps you make quality hires that no matter if you tell them, oh, your design doesn't really hit the mark right now, they go back and they come back and they give you something more amazing, right? Those are the type of designers you need on your team. And leadership is a very key thing. You want to at least sense something about this person that shows that they are willing to be autonomous. Because I don't need to hold your hands when designing. You would always, always, always know when to take charge. When you don't have a task to do, what are you doing with your free time, right? When I assign you a task, do I have to chat you up for the task? Or are you going to come back to me and tell me, hey, it's been 6 hours. This is what I've done so far. I've not designed anything yet, but this is the research I was able to do, right? This is what I think about it. This is the direction I'm heading. And you're like, oh yeah, good work, keep going. And then another 8 hours later, they're coming back to me again and like, oh yeah, so far, this is what I've done. Always iterative, always up and going, always, intuitive and, full with autonomy. And this type of people are the kind of people who would take charge when you are sleeping or be able to tell you, hey boss, I feel like you made a mistake. Can we talk about it? You need those type of designers in the team.
Wow. I really love the list that you mentioned, right? You must have a sense of humor in a way, right? You must have some leadership quality. You must have resilience, never downplay on quality, irrespective of the process. And we look at these things and outside I know how to use the software. These are actually key core skills that are also very much needed. These are things that bakes designers. And if many would agree, right? Designs and quality designs, pixel perfect designs, and well carved bezels and all these other things, we see those on the timeline. We see those on the internet. But these other skills you're mentioning,
bro,
we rarely see that.
You don't see them, and I just say like you realize that a lot of times we don't talk about these things, right? Because it's actually what sets us apart. It's the difference between a senior designer who has been in the team and experienced this repeatedly and a junior designer just coming on board, man. Like honestly, these little things set you apart because in some cases you can see a junior designer with amazing skill and in your head you're like, are you sure you're a designer of just 2 years? You design like someone who's been like 6 years plus. But then when you start working with them, right, you hire them based off Twitter and then you realize that, oh crap, this is not the designer I need, man. This guy has not been designing for like the past 12 hours. And then they come in nights before the deadline and they're like, hey,
This is what we have. Yes, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So now let's say you've put together your team, right? Yeah. And now you're working on a project. What are some steps, some key process that you would ensure to make sure that you align your creative team's vision with the overall business strategy? What are those roadmaps?
How I align the team vision with the overall business strategy?
Yeah.
That is a tough question, right? Because you always it's a thing of you want to be flexible in the sense where business strategies can always evolve, right? And it's important to understand the creative vision, right? Whatever it is, needs to be able to adapt to the business, right? Because when you talk about vision is like think of it like a big picture you want to attain, maybe a goal you want to achieve, right? And then you have to break it down into objectives, which means, okay, so in order to achieve this goal, we need to do A, B, C. And in order to do A, B, C, we need to do, D, E, G, F, Z, X, right? And then you start distributing into individual teams and like, okay, so this team handles this. Now, making sure the team sees the overall big picture, that is very key, right? Because you want to make sure that they understand the objective from the onset before you even put down a piece of paper to say, okay, now this is the brief I'm writing, right? They need to know that, hey guys, we have a project coming in, right? And this project, this is the company goals for the year or for this quarter or for this period of time. Or if it's a particular product you're working on, this is what we're trying to solve. This is a problem. And this problem for the business, they want to be able to increase in market share for this product or enhance customer experience or satisfaction, right? Or we are launching a new product and we need to discuss exactly how all of this, in terms of creative process, ties into it. The ability to frame, right, that larger context into smaller steps and let the team see that you designing this onboarding flow, right, and the auditing members designing the setting screen, designing the login screen, designing all of this. Now, when this gets developed, right, the marketing team that's working on the marketing strategies, marketing documentation, and then it's going to send that to us. You guys are going to do the marketing designs for this product. And when we launch it, right, we're going to be able to achieve these numbers and these numbers. So what I do then is let you know that this is the goals we're trying to achieve. These are the numbers we're trying to hit. You might not see the numbers yet, but I promise you that just doing this part of your work, right, is going to help us get to this point, right? So I always try to make sure they understand what that core flow is and how what you're doing contributes to, the entire big picture, right? And at the end of the day, once it's live, right, the numbers that, data is very key because you need them to be able to see how well their contributions are doing. So this reason for something like a landing page, for instance, you design the landing page, for a fact that at the end of the day, you can easily, after like maybe 2 weeks, 3 months or 6 months, you just check, Google Analytics. You can see the breakpoints, you can see the traffic, you can see the data, and that is enough for you to have a conversation with your designers and be like, hey guys, amazing work. We've had 3K users on this platform, on this landing page. Everybody's using it. We're converting. We're this. It uplifts the spirit of the designers and it makes them see, right, that in the process of all our work, all our collaboration, like, oh my God, I can't believe we hit this number. And what that does for you is, like me on my team, I have a data document where for everything we design, for every product we build, for everything we do, I put in numbers for them on their behalf so that they can also see what they're currently, where they're currently at, the growth. They can see where things are dropping off. And because most times companies don't give designers the access to talk to the analytics team, right? So maybe in the manager, I have that opportunity to collaborate with them and be like, oh, can I get numbers? Or I'm going to send a designer to you. Can they shadow you for a while so they can see the bigger picture, see what we're trying to do, and they can also take that measurement and impact it into their work, right? So I always try to emphasize on the importance of measuring like the impact of our creative work, because against all the business objectives, data really stands out, right? And that can come in the form of customer feedback, sales data, engagement metrics, and if we regularly access these things, it really helps to align that vision, right, for the designers. And in terms when they start maybe designing, like, oh my God, we can do all of this. I feel like we can do this. Oh, let's try this style. You always want to check in with the company's branding, right? The company's perspective that have, that brand image that I've created to the public. Does this align with what we're doing? And that's why my job comes in, right? I am supposed to be there to help. Hey guys, let's calm down a bit. I know we love to explore, but we can explore later, right? And then propose it to the team, right? If they like it, good. If they don't, right? This will not help us hit the goals. Remember, we have this to do. And they're like, oh, yeah. So can we, chime it down? Let's design something that fits into the objective, that we can use the brand colors, brand imagery, that's not too far off. So that way they know that, okay, I can't really over-explore, right, too far from what we currently have. I have to stay within the certain constraints, and that way I'm like, okay, sure, we can put our head down and do the work. But there's a trick to it. You always want to make sure your creative team has the ability to explore at the start of every project. Like, just go wild, man. Just just go wild, do your shit, right? Just do you. Sorry for his cuss word. Just like, do you, right? And then once we've seen all these ideas, we can like, okay, which of this fits the brand more? Which of this fits the functionality we're trying to do more? Which of this ties into our current roadmap? And that way, you always unlock that level of innovation in your team, right? Before you start saying no to this, no to this, no to this. Because if you instantly start saying no from the onset, it can kill the morale of the team, right? So you always want to give them that full autonomy to just go wild, do amazing things, and then, you can then start putting things down and aligning into the vision. So yeah, that's how I handle it to my team. But though all of this depends on the timeline of the project and depending on the urgency of the project. So yeah.
Yeah, because I was actually going to comment. I was going to ask a follow-up question on that. How about projects that have short deadline and all?
Short deadline, and we get into work. There's no time to there's no time to over explore, man. Like, just get straight into it. This is the constraints. This is what we have. Let's kill it. And instantly, they're killing it. I'm reviewing, saying, okay, yeah, this works. This doesn't work. Let's try this. And then we'll pitch stakeholders, pitch to the clients, and then we're good to go. Amazing.
That's great. How would you handle creative burnout within your team, especially under tight deadlines?
Creative burnout. That's a very serious thing, really, because especially in a field where inspiration and creativity are like key to our success, it's easy for burnout to creep in, right? Because if you think about it, with the tight deadlines, pressure is high. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm tired, project after project. And it's the first step is always recognize it, right? Like, recognize the fact that burnout can happen, right? And I have this thing where burnout is not I feel like burnout is really not a thing of having or managing multiple workloads, right? I feel like it's a thing where you have to have an environment. This also applies to like designers who work silo, right? You can have millions of tasks to do on your backlog. That shouldn't overwhelm you, right? The problem is you didn't create an environment where your creativity can flourish even when you're stressed. So if you can create that environment for yourself, you would be able to handle burnout, right? And you'll be able to, see it when it's happening, call it out quickly and fix it. So in my own case, right, for my team, I always want to make sure the environment for these guys is filled with, support, right? Like these guys know that I am always there to encourage them to take short breaks, right? I'm always there to make sure they understand that you need to know when to step back and just, you have done enough. You have been working for 4 hours straight. Relax. Take a 30 minutes break. Take a 1 hour break, right? Cool your head. Cool the energy. Go back again. If you have any ideas, take a piece of paper and just note it down. But relax. Let's do something. Let's laugh a bit. Let's talk about something else, right? Or let's all go for a quick walk around the building, wherever we're working. Or if you're working remotely, let's just play a quick game, right? Let's just relax. Let's chill. Or step away from the screen for a bit, right? That helps for these guys to see that, it is okay to relax sometimes, right? It's very unhealthy to have this hustle culture, right? You always want to be able to create a balance so you don't burn out quickly. And then the second thing is being able to know that the moment you can recognize any drop in productivity, right, or lack of enthusiasm, or any subtle signs of increased frustration, or anything about withdrawal, right? Once you notice the sign, make it a priority to have one-on-one conversations. Because the honest truth is, if you have consistently created this environment where people can feel relaxed, feel like themselves, people would easily tell you certain things. So I could tell you, we had this really crazy project we're working on for one of the teams. We're doing a side project for Amazon, and it was crazy that somebody had an emotional breakdown right on the project, and like, hey, wait.
Wow.
Someone broke your heart? Are you serious?
Ooh,
I am so sorry. I had to cry on the call with this teammates. Like,
wow.
You really need to understand that sometimes the burnouts can be because of personal issues, right? Or simply because maybe they just maybe the workload, or they lack inspiration about something, right? Maybe they are handling too many things at once, so you need to help them prioritize, so they're attacking it one after the other, right? So if you can be able to create that environment where people can easily come to you about anything, I promise you'll be able to help anyone navigate whatever situation they find themselves, right? Because the strategy is to reassess, right? Help them reassess both themselves, both the tasks that they have, prioritize it, right? Look through the timeline, right? And help them navigate that pressure, right? And create that supportive environment as always, to know that you are always there for them, no matter how they feel, no matter how overwhelmed it is, what support. Feel free to come to me and just rant about anything, right? That's why I'm your manager, right? I'm not just your guy you do daily stand-up with, right? It's almost creating that sense of friendship culture or family culture in the right sense of it. So because these are people that could also be of help to you in the future when you leave them, right? Or when you move on to when they move on to a new team or something. So and I always encourage them to always, look out for inspiration outside of work, right? I encourage them to, if you like clubbing, sure, go clubbing over the weekend. Take a break. Don't work over the weekend for any reason. If you like to watch anime, if you like to, read poems or write poems or whatever creative thing you like to do, podcast or draw, anything that could help you feel less, less overwhelmed and less unburdened. Do something that relaxes you, right? If you like to pray, go ahead and say a word of prayer, right? Ask God to help you feel better, right? Do anything that can help you feel good. And that basically is something I know that has been key for me in leading teams. Repeatedly, it always helps onboarding the team and helps the team, get out of that burnout phase. So you always want to be proactive about it, right? Burnout, the way to fix burnout is not when burnout is up, when your team is experiencing burnout. You are fixing burnout from the very onset by creating that environment from the very beginning, right? And that's how you can be proactive and empathetic about it, recognizing it from the very onset. And then if you're a good manager like me, I'll always try to make sure I understand the team's capacity, the team's capabilities, right? And what they can handle and what the timeline is for whatever tasks I'm assigning to them. So I am on their behalf, right, advocating for them to the stakeholders that, oh no, the team cannot get this out in this time. The team can do this within this time frame, right? Because as a design manager or a creative manager, I'm always looking out for the team and the business. It is not the business over the team or the team over the business. It is two people with equal importance, right? Because they cannot coexist. They cannot exist without each other. So,
Wow. Just wow. I mean, I've heard about empathy in design. We've read about it. We've studied it. But hearing you talk about it, you're not just a creative manager. You're literally an emotional support to your team. It is.
You just have to be, honestly.
Yeah, it's all in one, all round. I remember one time when I just actually got the project, and it wasn't about 5 days into that project, and I had a whole lot of things going on and off in my life, and I was like, I can't work. I really can't work. I mean, in as much as for some who may not have experienced it, it's a real thing, right? Emotional trauma and baggages and just life in general can just pick on you just to pick on you. I mean, anytime it happens. It happens. And wow, it's just beautiful to see that empathy is not just about we understanding and wanting to understand the users. It's much more also our very own selves as well, right? It's beautiful to see it in its practicality. It's beautiful. Thank you very much, Colins, for that. I really appreciate that. Which will lead me to ask this particular question. Because now that we know the kind of creative manager that you are, actually I'm calling you the managing director of creative. Now that we know the kind of managing director of creative that you are, what would be your A-list, right? Non-negotiable qualities that someone who intends to manage a creative team need to have. Like this is you cannot not have this. What would be this list?
Honestly, so I'm gonna talk less about the technical skills because as a manager, obviously you need to have you obviously need to have knowledge about the crafts, right? For a creative team, you need to at least know how to design. You need to be someone who it's not compulsory, but you need to be someone who has actually tried their hands through and tested on the craft, right? Up to the level where you can actually give proper creative direction. You can, give feedback, critique work, and you have a good solid taste of what good creative work is, right? For a finished product. Yeah. Aside from that, I think very non-quality key skills for me would be you need to just have empathy, man. Like understanding team needs and emotion, like I mentioned, is very crucial because it helps you connect with your team on a very deeper level that creates that essence and environment to foster trust, right? And for everybody to feel valued and understand, right? And understood, rather. And then the next thing would be communication, right? Being able to clearly articulate your ideas, being able to, your ideas, your expectations, your feedback, that is something that's very essential because communication isn't just about talking. It's about listening, right? Being a good leader who can say that, I am actively listening to the team's ideas, their concerns, their feedback, and ensuring that everybody's voice is heard. That is something that you need to be key about when it comes to being a good leader. Strong communicators are the ones who can sit back, listen, and take everything in, right? Decide on the right things to say, know when there's the right time to say certain things, and know how to be able to navigate and make everybody feel validated. That's something that's very key to have. You shouldn't be doing anything about managing if you can't have these two key things. And then the ability to be adaptable, right? The process is never ending. Plans often change. You need to know when to pivot. You need to know when to tell the team that, okay, we're changing direction, right? And in changing this direction, this is how we're approaching it. Because most times in a creative team, there's always chaos, right? You need to be the one that holds everybody together. Yeah. You need to know how to say, hey, you're drifting off points, right? This is the right process to take. Come back, let's try this. Or you need to know when, to say, guys, alpha, things are changing. Companies changing direction. This is what's going to happen next. This is how we can adapt to this change. and to make everybody feel comfortable during those, those changes happening in a team or in a company, right? Especially when it comes to company politics, for instance. You need to be adaptable in every process, in every way. You need to be a visionary. Someone who is a leader should always have clear visions about the team and about the projects you're working on. I never pick up a project when I don't have a clear understanding about it, right? Because I don't want a situation where I can't give proper feedback to my team, right? Because I am confused about the project. I can't see the bigger picture on it. So you want to be able to help them stay focused on that. You want to be someone who inspires people. Naturally, you cannot lead a team if you're not inspirational. You would rather be a boss. If you want to be a leader, you should be inspirational. That's the sense of it, because it is what makes them see, like, oh, Collins is on this project, man. I can see the fire Collins is putting in on this, man. I can see the sleepless nights. I can see everything. Like, I need to do this, man. Collins is doing this. I'm in there, right? It gets them going. It gets them curious. It gets them feeling driven about it, right? It also helps them want to do their best just because of you, right? That's something to inspire, right? When they see quality and the excellence that you bring in. And then you want to be able to be calm under pressure. You're going to experience tough setbacks, right? Challenges, different things that will just upset you. People making side comments, other teams, downplaying the efforts of your designers. You want to be able to stay calm, right? To navigate the entire process. And you want to have influence. You cannot really make certain decisions. You can't help put design on the table if you're not someone that's influential. You want to be able to walk into a space, right, in the team, and your voice can be heard, because that way it means you can help advocate for the design team. You can help lead the company to a process where they can say, design is really at the heart of this foundation because of someone like you is influential. Being a leader, for me now, I'm an introverted person, but when it comes to wearing the leadership hat for any project, you would honestly think I'm someone that talks a lot or someone that's everywhere. Because I'm in every project, I'm in every file, I'm everywhere, I'm navigating, I'm on calls, I'm talking. I cannot afford to be myself. I have to wear my other persona that says Collins needs to be outgoing, right? So I had to learn how to even host game parties sometimes, right? To host game nights with my friends in order to help me build up that skill of being able to say, I can host things, I can lead conversations, I can lead group conversations, I can be in a space with the stakeholders, and I'm not the last person to say something, right? I'm always one of the first people to lead the calls, right? Or to contribute on the calls. Then, you need to be decisive. You're going to make tough decisions, man. Tough decisions on when to say no to someone, when to say no to promotions, when to say no to people asking for a raise, right? Because it doesn't fit into the company's financials at this time, or how to say no to certain ideas, or how to say no to certain risk, or when to take risk, or when to play it safe. So you need to be able to have all of this, right? And these are the things that, the last one is key, is accountability. As a leader, you need to learn to absorb blames, right? Learn to absorb the failures and the successes. You don't want a situation where when the team is winning, you're like, oh, it's all on me. No, it's not you. It's for your team made this happen. When the team is failing, it's me, right? I made it happen. I'm sorry for what has happened. Then I can go back to the team and be like, hey guys, this happened. We made some mistakes. We weren't able to hit our targets. The client isn't happy, but I totally understood what the problem is. So if you could, just spend some time, let's figure it out together. Let's get through this phase, right? You can see I'm not calling blames out. I'm not saying, you did this, you did that, right? I'm spreading it out on a level playing field, so everybody knows that, okay, there is no particular person to blame, right? We are all in this together. We're going to get out of it, right? I don't let them know that, when talking with the founders, I told them I did this, that, sorry, my fault. I apologize on the team's behalf. Totally, to blame. That's this very true quality of a leader, right? And these are things I would say, any top, anyone that wants to manage a team should honestly have these things.
How do you handle working with cross-functional teams, such as engineers, marketers, to bring products to life?
Or more. That's a lot. In that sense, very key thing is you have to be very, very, very technical. Like, honestly, you don't have to learn how to code per se, but you have to understand certain certain technical terms, how certain things work, right? What are the constraints with different projects, different tech stacks, and that would help you understand what type of creative explorations you can handle or your team can handle. It will help you inform certain decision making processes, right? And it will also help you inform, okay, so I know what the ability and the key strengths of the engineering team is, right? I know what the key strength of the marketing team is. I understand what the marketing team likes. I understand what the designers can do. You at that point can easily create that communication pattern, right? And know the right set of resources to assign to these different teams, and be able to understand that, the different languages for different teams, that different priorities, and say, okay, for the marketing team, your priority is to do this, right? For the design team, this is a priority, but this is where we align, right? How can we approach this? I feel like we should do this. We should attack this first, then go this first, right? Let's do the marketing team for like 2 days, see how it goes, ship it out quickly. Then we can pick back the design project, or we can say, okay, pause. Let's, focus on shipping this out for the engineering team, and then we can come back to the marketing, or find a way to spread out your resource in that sense of collaboration, right? You always want to have this sense of mutual respect for people, right? You want to be able to establish very clear communication channels that says, this is how we work, right? This is the frequency we meet. This is who you come to when you need to make a request. Don't go to the designers. Come straight to me, so that way I can have a bird's eye view of what everybody's working on, how to approach it, who is the right person for you, right? Who is available, who is not available, and so my designers are not feeling overwhelmed. So the business is also not lacking in the certain goals that we need to achieve, right? And that's the very first step in understanding. These are very quick summary of things that you as a manager needs to be aware of. You need to be flexible, adaptable, being able to understand the different priorities shift, and understand when it's time to change direction as well. Understand the fact that engineers would always push back on certain things. You need to know when to involve them early on in the process, when to help take your designers who keep working on Figma alone, and know when to nudge them to be on calls with the engineers from the very beginning, and set the right processes that always interact with every team members from different departments. So and know when to involve stakeholders very early, right? So that decision making is not a long, lengthy process. It's more like a quick on the spot processes, right? And you know when something is feasible for engineering to build and when something is not. And you don't need to have a call with the engineers to tell the designers that, oh no, we can't build this. Because why? You already have technical knowledge to an extent. So you know what is feasible, what is not, before then jumping on the call with the engineers. So all of this is something that you as a creative manager, so you need to be able to know when to put a halt to your creativity and know when to accommodate for other needs from the other different departments and other teams when collaborating.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. Managing talent is much more than it's much more than just what we think, actually.
Yeah, because if you think about it, right, it's not just setting the design process for the team. You also need to think how your design process affects the engineering team, right? Know how to properly align with the engineers and what they need from your designers. And if your designers don't understand these things, obviously handoff processes will become a problem. If the product manager doesn't understand the value of design, it becomes a problem. So it's like you're not just managing your creatives, you're also indirectly managing other departmental teams that interface with the design team, right? And also have to manage your stakeholders as well on behalf of your designers. And then teach your designers how to manage these teams when they are working with them when you're not on those calls, on those projects. That's how I handle cross-functional teams. And it's much more easier that way. So it's like a lengthy process. Being the first manager, for instance, on a project, you need to make sure you understand how everybody works, right? So when I come on a team, for instance, one of the very first things I do is I send out a document that just asks you a few questions like, hi, what's the name, who you are. I already know your name, obviously, on the same team, right? I know your role, but then I want to understand how you like to work, right? how you like me to hand over tasks to you, or how you like the designers to interact with you, right? If we have an hypothetical project, for instance, how would you like collaborations to be? So once you understand everybody's style of working and collaboration, it's easier to find a common ground where we all interact and everybody's nobody's feeling overwhelmed or feeling attacked or feeling pressured because they have other things to work on, right? Everybody sees the common goals, and you know how to align all of that to everyone to make the right decisions and collaboratively work together and communicate.
That's great. You know, I actually started this podcast, so I think 2 years ago at the time of this recording, so I can converse with friends and, you know, colleagues and, you know, seniors and juniors and basically different sets of people, so I can see what they love doing, why they do what they love doing, and learn from them. And aside the fact that we're dishing out value, I believe, to our audience, I'm also gaining exhaustive value myself, like rich,
I'm glad,
detailed value. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I look forward to actually one day being like you, because it's actually really good. No, for real, man. It's a good initiative, honestly, bro. Like, it's a good initiative. I'm not gonna lie. For the fact that you can be in this position to interact with multiple people, have conversations like this, help them to, you know, give out value in this way, and also learn from it. Come on, guy. You are like a walking Santa Claus with multiple gifts to any company. Like you're just offloading different skills. It's good, man. Kudos on this. I appreciate this because I know for a fact that we needed something like this in the design space. So thank you for doing this.
I'm glad. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let's go into the section of design-driven decisions and measuring success. In as much as you've touched on this, I know you've mentioned something about it before, but how would you measure the success of a creative project? What would be the yardsticks? What's the metrics like?
Well, it honestly goes beyond the final deliverable. That one is for sure, right? Because it's about like evaluating both the tangible outcomes and the impact of the project that project has on the team and the users and then the business, right? So if you think about these things, it's like one, the alignments with objectives. Let's use that for instance. So in this sense, I mean, the first metrics, right, I would consider, I would say, whether the project met the objectives of the business, right, from the very beginning. Once I outline those objectives, like I mentioned, you have visions and then you bring them down into breakable chunks of objectives. Now, if the project is currently in that position of meeting this objective, and then we get to the end of the project, right? Have we met the creative goal we set for the team? Have we met the business goals? And for example, if the project was intended to increase, let's say, user engagement, right? Or maybe we want to increase how much time users spend on platform, or user retention. If the goal was to do all of this and launch a new product, we know for a fact that you can measure all of these things because they're tangible, right? And these are the objectives that we need to hit to be able to hit that main goal. So you can say, yes, you can set numbers for this, and you can actually calculate if we were able to get to this point. That's, you know, making sure the project aligns with them. So that data can help you measure success, right? Because every project has a different requirements for success. That's the very key thing, right? Yeah. So, but generically speaking, every project at every point always has either they want to be able to meet conversion rates, user retention, or people to spend much time on the platform, or user engagement. You can always set figures for these things, and you can measure them at the end of the project, right? Or you can also start measuring them from maybe the MVP phases, right? If it's always an iterative process, because most times project don't end. And then you realize that, yes, you're hitting the goals. And then when it now comes to the users, so you realize we just adjust business goals, right? So now, if you now come to the user goals, you talk about user satisfaction, user feedback, doing the user surveys, right? Doing usability testings, doing interviews, all right? And that's how you gather qualitative information, right? That says, yes, I did this for these guys. That's a key indicator to success, right? Because did we solve the problems we thought about doing research? Or did we solve the problems that we made assumptions on that were the user problems, right? If we didn't do enough research, did we solve the problems we identified doing competitive research, right? Is the experience easy to use? What are the positive signs we have seen when users interact with this platform? Are there any good constructive criticism? We can say, all right, users want this, they're experiencing this. Now we have a backlog of tasks, right? Now, out of this backlog of tasks, what is the at the end of the feedback, what is the percentage we got in terms of how well we did, right? In terms of the user experience, are we on a 50%, 60% scale? What's the net promoter score, right? Are we actually doing really well or not? Will people want to promote this product? Once we can be able to say yes to all of these things on a 60%, 70%, we know we're hitting really good, right? So we can just work on these backlogs and then improve the experience. Now I've helped define success for user feedback based on data and information. Now, all of these are, quantifiable data that you can use to determine these things. So now when you talk about the team itself, remember I mentioned success can be determined on team level, business level, and user level. Yeah. So now on the team level, you now have the creative impact where, let's say, on the creative side, right? Okay. I personally would assess whether the project pushed the boundaries of innovation and creativity in a sense. Now, you cannot exactly put figures around or quantify innovation and creativity. You can, it's qualitative. It's based on your taste, and it's based on taste of the team, right? What have you guys decided is high quality? Did we, for instance, we can say we want to design a product that's very, very easy to use, like Notion or Airbnb, or we want to design a product that feels like Apple, right? Or feels like I've listed a few products. Let me not push my luck. Then so now we now start asking questions when we do team retros. We say, how well have we done so far, right? How are we feeling about the project? Was there any points where you were not able to explore all the ideas you had in mind? What was the blocker you had then? Did we come up with unique solutions? Did the project inspire you in any way to want to do more, right? Did they inspire people on the project to want to share on social media, talk about it, be proud of the designs, right? To go on and say that, I built this, I did this. Because I never want to have my designers work on projects where they cannot feel that sense of identity to it. That they can't be like, yes, I identify with this product, right? What's the messaging like? Is this going to give a strong brand presence for us? Will people see this and go, wow, amazing? Now, no matter the constraints, right? We are creatives and we know for a fact that you can box us in and we'll still give you quality work. We can still give you quality work, right? And we can still be proud of it in a sense, right? So if we can see all of that and say, yes, we hit the targets we have in mind. It was maybe 60% like Apple, or it wasn't there yet. Let's try again next time, or let's try again in version 2. We can say, yes, we hit a 70% goal for the business, 60% goal for users, but we hit a 30% goal for the team creatives, right? Because we're not able to explore as much as we wanted. These are figures, and I can go back to the stakeholders and be like, we hit success on business level, which is fine. Now, how do we improve on the team level so that everything can align in a way where the company is also proud of the work that's being out there, right? Because honestly, not everybody understands the value of design, one, and not everybody knows quality design, right? So this is where information of data, competitors' products can come in play. Did we design a product that beats our competitors, right? And then these are things we can then measure and say, okay, yes, our competitors' product is doing well because of their feedback is way better than us. I can say to the stakeholders that, can you see this, right? That, our competitors are doing way better than us. Our return of investment is quite low, right? Our brand recognition is not as much as our competitors are doing, which in turn means we need to rethink our experience. So how can we improve what we currently have? And they're like, that's true. What do you think? I can say, I think the designers can actually do much better work than this. We might need a rebrand. What do you think? Rebrand, isn't that too expensive? Well, compared to the return of investment, we're losing money on the table here. Which is more important to you? Spending time to doing good work that will give us more money, or currently going with what we have. What do you think, right? And they're like, I'm sold. Okay. Now let's go do good work, right? And then you realize that the success of the project is not dependent on we now doing good work. I just in a way sold design to stakeholders, right, to increase the team's success rate for the next iteration we're doing, which in turn will increase business impact, which in turn will increase team performance and their growth, because now they're going to feel like they can align themselves to the project, in turn pushing their boundaries, wanting to learn any new skills to help improve that project, or try out new design trends, try out anything that will help put that project off the charts to make the brand recognition go up the roof, increase return of investments, increase brand loyalty, increase, just basically all of this. These are things that can increase project success, aside from maybe process efficiency, where during retro, you can say, did you execute properly? Were deadlines met? Did we fit within the budget? Or were there any bottlenecks? You can fix all these processes that can help make sure any iterations we do on new projects are continuously improving, right? But yeah, that's aside. Then maybe retro to when you have launched the project. All of that aside, this is how I feel you can measure success for any creative team.
Fascinating. How do you demonstrate the value of design specifically to stakeholders who may not be familiar with its impact?
So key summary will be speak their language, right? I could speak a lot about this topic, but key one will be speak their language. Designers like to talk design, right? It's okay to talk design, but you can't talk design to your users. You can't talk design to stakeholders. You can likely talk design to developers or product managers or your fellow designers, but stakeholders who are not familiar with design, what do they know is user persona? What do they know is user journey? Please talk in my terms. So this is why it's always good for designers to understand the business of design, right? Because if you can understand how your design impacts the business and how business impacts design, as a vice versa, what's the word? English is hard sometimes though.
Relationship?
Relationship. Yeah, if you can understand that relationship. So if you can speak that language, right? So for example, let's say design creates intuitive user journeys, right? This is our design, we create intuitive user journeys. As a business-oriented designer, I would say if you can minimize the barrier to purchase for this user who wants to buy something on this e-commerce platform, right? I believe we can increase our sales if we take out, or if we add a checkout button here, or if we add this image here, or remove this tag. It will be easy for them to just click and boom, they're in sales, or click and add to cart, click and add to cart, and the next thing you know, psychologically speaking, they start seeing everything. Immediately do not show them all the total or the summation of this cart, so that they can click purchase, and then takes them to cart, so they can now see everything.
Okay.
So now you notice, you start seeing people always getting to cart. Then you can start measuring where the drop off. Is it that the money is too much, or we need to start offering discounts, right? So now I'm talking to the clients, so that the clients can probably remove something that they say they want, or not add extra steps. I'm not telling them that because design, because the user journey, we don't want the user journey to be too long, and this no, it won't make sense. No, I'm not talking design, or the research I did said we want it short. No, I'm explaining what the barrier is, right? If we add multiple process, right? So I'm not comparing two different flows for you, but now these flows, I have mocked them up so that you can visually see what I'm saying, and I'm visually prototyping and saying, if you click this, you can see it's adding the cart. You can see there's no money, right? So I would initially want to click, let me buy, and then I'll see the money. But if you take the approach you're taking, I'll have to click and open the product first, and then I'll click add to cart. You can see we're going to lose money at this point. How fast do you want to make money, right? So now I'm talking business terms with them, right? And then more examples can go. For instance, I want to say, we designed this in this way so we could have a delightful experience when users interact with it. I approach this product, right, this particular page, so that we can deliver proper engagement for users, so that people would always be on this place. Because think about it, if we have these cards at the top for this mobile app, if we have the add to fonts, redraw, these two things you see here, these buttons, right? People would easily want to send money quickly. And that would help us increase our fees because now people are now sending money. But if you hide this button and you put just numbers, that wouldn't get them to want to quickly take an action, right? So that's what we need to do so that we can increase our money and transaction fees so that people are always transacting, right? And they're like, okay, I see what you mean. Okay, you can leave that button there. So if you notice, I'm trying my best to use lesser and simple words so that these guys can understand what I'm trying to explain. And I'm not trying to say, design. I'm trying to explain that, for increase in engagement, for sales to go up, for user retention, for increase in sales, for retention of users, and for people to not drop off, we have to do this, but in the most simplest way possible, right? So that it feels like I am explaining something to a 5-year-old that they can understand and they can see the value. That way, it is less likely that these people would say no to certain decisions you offer, certain iterations you propose to them, right? And then in most cases, if they're still saying no, right, that's the reason you do research at the start of a project, right? Even if it's just secondary quick research, right? You do that so that you can have information, data, metrics. But oftentimes, we don't go to these people and say, remember that competitive analysis, this competitor you have, you can see how they did theirs, right? Now, the research I did, they are making this amount of figure. And in this case study that they put out, they said that they were losing users at this point. So now, if we are going to be better than them, we cannot put this level of interaction in this point. We will need to remove this and add this here and add this here so that we can beat this 20% drop-off rate. What do you think? Right? This is why I made this decision for this design. That way, they are starting to see the bigger picture. Now, I'm using data to back up speaking their language and also align their goals. I say, Shay, you said you want us to be able to hit this figure at this time. We cannot do this thing you need right now. We can do it after, so that when it's live, people are using it, we can come and give them better experiences. That way, they are going to talk about us to people. So if you notice, I went from giving answers in those large grammars to you earlier. Now I'm trying to use very simple terms, right? So that even you can see what I'm trying to picture. So this is how, right? I feel like you can easily do visual storytelling to people, right? And easily share information to stakeholders rather, and share feedback, even include user feedback, include competitive and highlight the advantage that you get with competitive advantages, and also make them see the cost efficiency of doing these things now than later, right? And I do all of this from the very early onset. So that way, users are involved early at every single point and every point of the iteration. So that's how I sell design to them. Sorry.
Wow, this has been a lot in Kem's the firstborn voice word. This has been a lot. This has truly been a lot. Yeah, and I am glad. I'm truly glad. I'm really glad for this. I really am glad.
But wow. There's so much maturity, man. This is an amazing podcast for you, man.
Thank you so much, Colins, for being on this podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, for your wealth of knowledge. Really appreciate it.
Designstration.
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 Designstration.